introduction. And also, first of all, let me express my gratitude to the Chemtech Foundation for inviting me to be the moderator for this very relevant session. It is also very happy to note that year after year, Chemtech is giving all of us a platform to interact or to understand and also share knowledge about it. We are all very happy about that. Hopefully, Chemtech will continue this activity for many, many more years. Today, we have got an outstanding panel and also a very, very relevant topic, product flexibility in refining and petrochemicals. Why it is relevant, we will discuss for a few minutes before I hand over to our very knowledgeable panelist. First, we all are now looking at the World Energy Outlook published by IEA every year. Year after year, this is actually becoming a document for us to understand how our industry is moving. They published in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we were closely watching what is happening. In 2021, it is extremely more relevant because they published few days before COP26, which is going to happen in Glasgow few days from now. Whether it is in 2021 or 2020, it is very clear that the discussions are more about the transition happening in our industry. All of you know that countries and major industries or energy industries started declaring net zero. I don't know when our country is also going to declare a date where we are going to be net zero. But this report is very clear, whether it is a net zero activity or based on the already announced policies of the various governments and various industries, the transition is going to happen in next 15 to 20 years. Whatever be the scenario they have considered, they are saying that auto fuels are going to peak in 30s and crude oil as a commodity is going to peak in 40s. It is also very clearly projected in one of the probable scenario that by 2050, more than 50% of the crude oil is going to be used for petrochemicals. This trend will reflect in our country too. Maybe little later than the developed countries, maybe little later than the European countries, but it is definitely going to come. We also started noticing in the post-COVID recovery in India, how gasoline demand is growing more than proportionate with the diesel. So the time has come for us to create this type of a product flexibility. LPG demand we have seen. Last year, when most of the products we not required for the market, LPG we have to satisfy the demand. Hence, product flexibility, the ability to create a product flexibility is going to decide the success of the industries in this transition period. That is something called the resilience that we create would definitely help us to succeed. Electrification is going to happen truly in automobile sector, in housing sector, in agriculture. So that will have an impact on the auto fuels. And petrochemical demand will grow. These are all known factors. But how to adapt to this situation is actually we have to discuss, and I am hopeful that panelists will give us light on what is the plan for all of us to ensure that we are successful at the end of the day. Friends, this is not the first time that our industry is going through this transition. One parallel I can remember is in 1940s, during the World War II and immediately after that, that is the time the real transformation happened in our industry. The heavy catalytic cracking was discovered, isomerization, polymerization, many technologies were discovered during that time or developed during that time. Many innovative products also developed, like synthetic rubber from butadiene. That was essential for the tire of the military vehicles. Then PVC was developed as a lining for the service boots of the army personnel. Many such products have been developed during that time. So how it is possible? Because that was a time real innovation was employed by the people to ensure that the market needs are met with a great ability. The purpose of those days is to help the armies to win the war. Now the purpose is actually for the countries and industries to win this transition. So that is possible only through creating adequate flexibility, having innovation, more inputs to R&D, and also we coming together and sharing the knowledge for us to create a platform to ensure that we survive, we float, and we continue to be an energy supplier, chemical supplier post this transition. I'm very happy to see that we already started seeing this indication. We already started making engineered plastic, then block copolymers, etc. This is all for the batteries, the lithium-ion batteries that is being developed for the electrification of the mobility, the electrification or the storage of the energy that we need for the coming years. So the refining and petrochemical industry has already started, even though it is in a small way, to innovate, to find out what the market demand needs in the coming years. So the immediate requirement of all the refiners is to have two things. One, create adequate flexibility in the medium term to match with the auto fuel demand and other conventional demands. Also integrate for petrochemicals, because ultimately the demand growth of petrochemical is projected to be extremely high for the next 30 to 35 years in India, not to catch up with the developed world, at least to catch up with an average global requirement of our employees. All of us aware that by 2040, we are going to add at least 200 million people to our population. And along with the urbanization and an average expected GDP growth of 5 to 8%, which is assumed to be a very, very reasonable aspiration that we have. So India needs huge quantity of products. Those products need not be as gasoline or gasoline. Those products would be required to be developed from different molecules of crude unit. And that is something which we can do 100% with efficiency and with accuracy. Let me conclude by saying another opportunity that is evolving for the hydrocarbon sector, the hydrogen economy. The Prime Minister has already announced that India wants to be the global leader in green hydrogen. And we as an industry has got the ability to handle, produce, manufacture, use hydrogen. So it is going to throw a lot of potential for us to focus on these type of evolving things. So how it is possible is to make our refineries more resilient to meet the market demand in the transition period, during the transition, depending on how all these things will evolve. I'm extremely happy that we have got 4 very knowledgeable panelists. Reep Hazarika from BCPL, MD of BCPL, Rajesh from Lamas Technology, Satyan from KBR, and Pankaj from Honeywell. They are already been introduced. So I will now hand over to Reep Hazarika for his views. At the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. Kindly note in the chat box your questions. We would be addressing those questions on completion of the presentation by 4 of these panelists. Over to you.